Let me get Instagram up and running here to you guys. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. If you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Jerry. I'm the owner here at a company called Wealth Dynamics. And every Friday, I do a course. I do a course on personal finances. If you've tuned in for any amount of time, you know that this is something that I do for free because I want to help people with money. I want to help people become financially educated. I want to help people be able to build wealth and navigate their lives with economic certainty. And so that's why I do these courses, because it's not something I ever had. When I was a kid, nobody ever sat down with me and said, this is money, this is how it works. And so I do these courses each week, right? So we're tuning in tonight. This is our third week in a row on financial topics that are taboo, okay? Now, what that means is we're going to cover all the stuff we were told not to talk about with money, right? And so what that looks like for me is I have a list here. We're about halfway through it that I made on. These are all of the topics that most of us don't talk about when it comes to money. We avoid them. We don't confront them. We don't talk about them. When others talk about them, we typically become offended, or we feel awkward, or whatever it might be. And so because of that, we just don't talk about them altogether, right? And I was thinking back on this, and I actually think the first thing I was ever taught about money was don't talk about it. Like I legitimately, like when that, I recall that being the first thing I was taught about money is don't talk about money because it's not polite and you're not supposed to talk about it. Okay. And so what happens, and what happened for me, is I didn't talk about money. My parents didn't talk about money. My siblings didn't talk about money. My friends didn't talk about money. And so I went most of my life not hearing about money, not talking about money, not being educated on money. And the byproduct of that was many financial problems in my life. Okay. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to jump into several topics on money and finances that most of us don't talk about. Most of us avoid confronting. Now, if you're watching tonight, 2 rules here, 3 rules actually. First rule is if you can't be positive, Instagram, I'm mainly talking to you guys, just don't even be on the stream. This is for positive people that want to learn. So if you're here to be negative, if you're here to drop condescending remarks in the comments because your money's not where you wish it was and you've got to make fun of others in order to feel better about yourself, don't even be on the stream. Like just go find some, pornography or something that you can look at instead. Again, mainly Instagram, because that's what I would expect this person would do instead. So that's the first thing, positivity only. If you're negative, off, just go, okay? Second thing is, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. You'll always get your questions answered. I'll always acknowledge them. And so it's something that I want to make sure we handle. Now, we will do something a little differently during these because I want to answer some of the topics you guys have. So that's the third thing, is if you have a topic on finances that you would like to have covered, drop it in the comments. Okay, let me know. It has to be financial related, so it's not going to be politics or whatever the other thing might be, but it's going to be financial related. Okay, so drop that in the comments and I will cover it. And the final rule here is, if you have a word that I say that you don't understand, ask me what it means. Throw down in the comments. Okay, I want to make sure, because what happens is with money especially, it's already a confusing topic. We have banks and governments and organizations that make it more complex than it really needs to be. And so what happens is we have all these things that already don't make sense. And then when somebody else starts teaching and talking and brings these concepts back up, I've experienced, my eyes will glaze over, I'll get bored, I'll get distracted, disinterested. Eventually I'll just stop watching and listening altogether. So I want to avoid that happening, because my intention is to help you with money. Okay, so if you feel like, hey, I'm not tracking, that was maybe over my head, that didn't make sense, I'm confused with that, whatever, that's a symptom of misunderstanding one of the topics that I'm going over. Okay, so guys, we're gonna go ahead and dive into this. The first thing we're gonna talk about tonight on the list: bad personal financial decisions. Okay, bad personal financial decisions. Who here has made a dumb money decision? Let's see some hearts, some laughing faces, some emojis if you have made a dumb money decision. I can't even count how many that I've made. In my lifetime, it's been over and over and over. And it's been less and less and less as I started learning more about money, but it was a frequent thing. And the reason why this is on my list is, a lot of times when we make dumb money decisions, bad financial decisions, we don't talk about it. Okay, we don't talk about it. We avoid it. We sweep it under the rug like it never happened. Um, I had the mindset that I was the only one in the world that ever made bad financial decisions. So I definitely didn't want to share it with somebody because I thought I would be made to look stupid. I couldn't tell my friends. I couldn't tell my family, right? Now, this dynamic changes a little bit when you get married because when I got married, all of a sudden your spouse can see all this stuff, right? And so it's kind of double-edged sword there. But especially growing up, I made some dumb money decisions, right? One of the dumb money decisions that I made, you get this, I worked probably from the age of 8, like 7 or 8, when I first started working with my dad as a painter. I was making $5 an hour. $5 an hour from the age of 8, right? All the way through. I could have kept doing that. In high school, my hourly wage only got higher. Then I was making $8 and $10, right? I didn't save a cent of that. I spent it all on basketball cards and basketball shoes. Dumb money decision. That was probably tens of thousands of dollars that I earned as a little kid, guys. Like, imagine if I kept that and I invested it, where that would be today. So I look back at that, and it's not fun for me to be like, yeah, I probably blew tens of thousands of dollars on sports memorabilia as a little kid because I had money and I didn't have any education on money. That was a bad financial decision, right? Sometimes it's college. I didn't go to college, but I know people that did go to college, and it's really hard to justify. I just spent $40,000 on a piece of paper to get a job that I don't even have a career field in, and I'm paying a monthly payment on for the rest of my life. That's a hard one to confront, right? Now, on these topics, the three things we have to do, especially when it's a topic like this, is A, we have to communicate about it. We've got to communicate about it and actually have some communication. Then we've got to confront it. Then we have to solve and handle it, right? Three things we're going to do. So if I made a bad money decision, I have to communicate about it. Now, the only reason that I wouldn't communicate about it is I have false data on the fact that nobody else makes these decisions. Like, my reality was nobody else makes bad financial decisions. Therefore, I can't communicate about it because if no one else makes these decisions, I'm going to look like a dumbass, and it's not fun looking like a dumbass. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and pretend like everything is perfect, AKA middle class America, right? The other one is I haven't actually handled the fact that I made that decision, meaning that I haven't actually recognized it was a bad decision. So I wouldn't talk about it because I don't actually want to admit that it was a bad decision. So I just don't talk about it so I don't have to look at it, right? It's kind of like when you have a dog that I have two dogs. When you have a dog that pees or poops on the rug and they won't look at it, like when you see them and you're like, man, the dog just crapped, they won't look at the poop because they're pretending it's not there. That's lack of communication, right? So I have to communicate. That's the only two things that would really prevent me from doing that. Now, the thing to confront on this is if I'm making bad money decisions, it means that there's something I don't understand. At the end of the day, there's something I don't understand about money, right? Meaning that either there's just lack of knowledge, like it's just a blank spot, or I have false data, meaning I have information that I hold to be true and I'm still trying to use, but it doesn't actually produce the effect that I think it does. These are tricky because if it's just a blank spot, then it's like not even knowing there's something there. It's hard for me to realize I'm making bad money decisions if I don't even have like a muscle there to tell like, hey, this is actually a thing, right? And then with the false data, that's also tough because I think it's true. It's not false to me if I'm believing it. I think it's true in that moment. So that's the thing I've got to confront is there's something I don't understand, and it's one of those two things. Okay. And so the other thing I've got to confront is that I have full responsibility for that decision, regardless of whether I knew or didn't know. I'm 100% responsible. If I got overextended on a car loan, which I did several times, where I was upside down, negative equity on a car that I really couldn't afford, that was starting to break, and I couldn't trade it in because it was so upside down, I couldn't go back to the dealer. That was a bad financial decision. I was responsible for that. I could have said, well, the dealer sold me a dud. I didn't understand the finance terms. No one ever taught me about car loans. The car thing is a scam because the equity goes down as soon as I drive it off the lot. But guess what? None of that fixes it. None of that fixes that thing. For me, that was one of my, first major, bad financial decisions was I financed several cars and did the same exact thing over and over because it was false data for me. I thought that that's how you do cars. I thought that you buy the cheapest car you can, you get the loan, get the lowest payment you can get, and you extend it over the longest term so you can get the lowest payment you can get. And the result of that is I have a car that I paid more for than it's worth. Okay. And when I try and trade that car in, I can't because I didn't actually pay any money down on it because my loan is extended on such a long term. And now I'm upside down with a car that I bought the cheapest one. A, it's going to break. B, I don't have any equity. And C, I haven't actually been paying enough money to pay it down to value and I'm stuck now. That's a bad financial decision. So A, I had false data on that. I thought that that was the way you should do it. And B, I wasn't taking responsibility for the decision. That was my responsibility, not even my fault. Like, fault is like a thing that people say to not have to do anything about it. They say that's someone's fault and then they don't have to fix it. This is responsibility, meaning that I am full cause over 100% of this. So with a bad financial decision, A, everyone's done it. Everyone has done it. Those that act like they haven't, they've done worse ones than you have. So don't worry about telling them, right? And then B, I actually have to confront, I don't know something on that topic. I need education. I might need to strip education that I think I have and get rid of it because it's not working. And then I've also got to actually take responsibility for it. And the way that I'm going to handle it is I have to go look at, like, what thing was I thinking at the time that I did that really doesn't add up with what I thought it was going to do. Right? So for me on the car thing, I have to go back to when I bought the cheapest car that I could get and extended the payment for the longest that I could get it to get the lowest payment. What was I thinking in that moment? Okay. For me, it was, I can't afford this car. That really was what I was thinking. I can't afford this car. So I'm going to get the cheapest payment I can get. Okay. So that was like my data that I was basing it off of. Do you guys see how I isolated that? Now I have to look at, where did I get that from? Okay, where did I get that from? Did I get that from my parents? Did I get that from being marketed to and advertised to? Did I get that from my peers? And I've got to go back and identify that and then look at, was that person winning in that area? Okay, for me, I look back at that, I probably got that from my parents. My mom's car got repoed when we were kids. My parents were paycheck to paycheck. We couldn't afford things a lot. And so a lot of the bad decisions we made were based on, I can't afford this, so I'm gonna have to do this instead. Okay, but when I look at it, they didn't have financial results the way that I wanted in my life, so I should not be taking their data as my data. You guys tracking with that? So with bad financial decisions, like the breath of fresh air on this is just communicate about it. Communicate it, like be willing to talk about it, be willing to share, because there's other people out there that had similar experiences that actually will communicate back to you, and they'll be able to give you solutions and share with you what they went through and how they handled it. And it just makes it much easier to win with money when you have communication around it. Okay, so that's bad financial decisions. We have that crossed off the list. All right, so that's the first topic. Second topic that I want to cover tonight, again, we're covering taboo money topics, things that we usually don't talk about, that usually aren't confronted, that are kind of uncomfortable, and so we don't talk about them. Okay, the next one I want to cover, and this one is awkward, is parents becoming a financial burden to their kids. Okay, who here is a parent? I don't have kids yet, so if you're a parent, this is for you. If you're not a parent, this is for you when you do have kids. Okay, so what I'm talking about on this is the idea of, let's say, a family having debt and they don't have income coming in and they're not saving money and they're not planning for retirement and they're not saving up and investing for healthcare costs down the road. What is ultimately going to happen to that? Like, if we have two parents that are broke and they end up in their 60s and they're no longer working anymore and they end up in a nursing home and now their kids are working, who do you think pays their bills? This is not a fun thing to think about, right? But if I'm the parent, I have just become a financial liability to my children. I see a lot of parents that they get caught up in the American dream of owning the house and the white picket fence and the kids and the German vehicles and going to Olive Garden every weekend and whatever it might be. And they totally don't confront, I actually have a future after my kids. My kids are going to become adults, and the things that I cause today are going to be the effects of tomorrow, right? And so that's really what this comes down to, is if I don't actually take control of this stuff now, then it's going to be a burden for my kids. Okay, like if I'm the average American right now, where I'm saving just a little bit of money in my 401k, and I'm in my 30s, 40s right now, when I'm in my 70s, I will be out of money. I'll be broke. My 401k will be drained. Statistically, I can show you that over and over and over. It happens within 10 years of most retirees. Okay. If I go broke and I have adult kids who love me and they feel like they owe me for what I did for them when they were kids, helping them be raised and all of this stuff, what do you think their instinct is going to be when they realize I can't pay my bills? They're going to try and help. Okay. Which is not wrong of them. That's awesome. If that happens, that means you raised great kids. But as a parent, you're now killing your kids financially. They're having to pay their bills and your bills. If I have kids that are having to care for me, like that's something that's going to basically put them in the same position I'm in their future. They're going to have to care for their kids are going to have to care for them. And it's going to become a generationally repetitive thing over and over and over. And what will happen is every generation will be broke because they had to care for the generation before, because the generation before blew all their money and had no financial wherewithal and didn't save, didn't invest, didn't do any of the things we talk about. Okay, that's not fun to confront, because if you have kids, they might be like right now in their, younger years, 5, 6, 7 years old, and it's very fun and it's easy to have those fun little moments. But you got to look at, man, these are going to be adults, and at some point they're not going to live with me anymore. And if I don't plan ahead, then they're going to be in a position where they're not going to be able to enjoy their later years with their kids because they're going to be taking care of grandma and grandpa. Okay, so the first thing with this is again, we've got to communicate about this. That's what we're doing right now. This is happening more and more. If you look around, it's happening more and more where parents are having to be taken care of by their children, where grandparents are having to be taken care of by their children and their grandchildren, right? Because like worst case scenario, you end up, in like a Medicaid facility where or a Medicare facility where you're having to give away all of your assets and basically be broke to get minimal care for the rest of your life. And no kid wants to see their parents go through that. So your kids will fight for you, but it's going to come at their detriment, and it doesn't have to be that way. If you invest now, if you pay off debt now, if you save money now, if you increase income now, you can create a different result, right? So I've got to confront, if I'm a parent and I'm currently doing that, and when I say I'm doing that, I mean that as a passive thing. I don't know parents that are maliciously out there like, oh, I'm going to be a burden on my kids by being financially irresponsible. I've never seen a parent actually do that. It's usually a passive thing where instead of like a commission where I'm making something happen, I'm just not doing it. I'm not saving, right? It's easy to not save. I'm not investing. It's easy to not invest. I'm not taking care of my debt. It's easy to not do that. I'm not increasing my income. It's easy to not do that. I'm not taking care of my personal health. It's easy to not do that. They're all passive things that actually do create an effect, and it's not a pretty one. I've got to confront that if I am not doing those things, and I know that that's the effect they're going to create down the road, I am knowingly creating that result. Even though it's not malicious, it's like knowing someone's about to get hit by a car, seeing everything about to happen, and then not stopping it. That's kind of the result. And so it's an intense thing to think about. It's not a fun thing to think about, but it's a real thing. It's a very real thing. And so that's why I'm talking about this. If you're a parent, like I've got to confront that. I have to confront that if I'm a parent, and I've got to actually take control and responsibility. Now, the good news on this one is it's not rocket science, right? Like if I instead of going home and spending time with my kids all night, every night, all weekend, every weekend, I could work a couple extra hours. I could start a side business. If I see them a couple hours a night, they're totally happy with that. They don't need me to be there 5, 6 hours a day. They were with their mom or with their dad all day. If I come home from work, like they've got time with me still. So I can put that time in, whether it's an extra hour or 2 or 3 each night, that adds up, right? The next thing is I can save. That doesn't have anything to do with taking time away from kids. I can save money, right? And that means that I just, put the money towards my savings instead of putting it towards things that I put it towards now. Right? I can invest. That's also another thing that takes no time, right? Because as a parent, I would be concerned about, I want to spend quality time with my kids. Saving and investing take no time. Paying off debt takes no time. Working does take time. But again, you're going to have plenty of time to spend with them in a nursing home if they end up having to take care of you. So I wouldn't be concerned about this. I would be thinking about, how do I make sure that I create a better future? And so that's kind of what I'm talking about on this, is that it's not super hard to fix this one. It is just doing the basic rudiments of finances, earning more income than I spend, saving money, from paying myself first, investing in things that pay me passive income, and planning ahead and actually having some foresight on some of this stuff. So that is our second topic. There's a couple in the comments here that I'm going to hit, actually. Plenty of comments. Good to see everybody here tonight, by the way. If you're on Facebook, make sure you guys share this. If you're on Instagram, you've got questions, drop those in the comments. Eric Whitaker says he was always told it was rude to talk about money. So I was taught the same thing. And because of that, I never ended up talking about money. Brad Reese says he wants me to talk about buying gold and silver as an investment. Let me hit that. Buying gold and silver as an investment. Cool. I'll hit that. I'll hit that, Brad. So what Brad is talking about, Brad's saying that it's taboo. If anyone here has invested ever in gold and silver, you can vouch for me on this. When you tell your friends and your peers and family that you did that, unless they're of the same mindset, they look at you like you're a freaking alien. Like they just cannot fathom why you bought gold and silver. It makes no sense to them, right? And you'll immediately hear like, oh, you know, this, you could put it in Amazon and the stock market and blah, blah, blah. Why would you buy gold and silver? It's just a rock. Did you guys know, and again, we've got to communicate about this. Did you guys know that our entire US currency system used to be based on gold? Okay, those were the most prosperous years in United States history when we had a currency system based on gold. When we came off that currency system in 1971, and by the way, if you want to fact check me on this, go to WTFhappened1971.com and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's WTFhappened1971.com. When we left the gold standard in 1971, meaning that our US dollars were no longer backed by gold, literally every imaginable stat that you can think of got worse. Unemployment got worse. Racial crimes got worse. Obesity got worse. Like illegal psychiatric practices got worse. All of this stuff came from the fact that United States citizens were working harder and harder for less money every year, literally creating a condition of poverty. So today the dollar is backed by nothing. And so when somebody buys gold and silver, what they're saying is, I have no confidence in the US dollar. I don't. Personally, I don't. You can quote me on that. You can hate on me for that. I have no confidence in the US dollar. It's backed by nothing. It's garbage. Okay. And so what I'm saying is I'm betting that the US dollar will crash. It will. Every single currency that's been like the US dollar in history has. And so I'm betting against that by buying gold and silver. When it crashes, gold and silver don't. They still have value. I still have the ability to use that. Gold, by the way, I've had a tracker of my gold investments over the last year. I've made 34% of my gold, right? In a time where the market just crashed, like we just had the stock market get slaughtered, my gold still made money. Okay. So this is stuff that like it's taboo on this one. Again, we've got to confront it because we're not made to know about it. Right. We have an organization called our government that in 1971 had the entire world give them their gold and they didn't give it back. They traded paper instead. Right. So why would the government want gold, but they don't want us to have gold? How come after the 1950s gold, or the 1930s, 1950s, in that era, gold became illegal? After the Great Depression, gold became illegal. If you were a US citizen, you were not allowed to own gold. That was all the way up until the 1970s, which once we got off the gold standard, it was fine to own gold. Nobody cared. Right? Like I have to look at these things. These are outpoints. I have to really look at, why would a government want to own all the gold? Why would they want me to not own gold? Why would they want me on paper currency? Okay. The real thing is, when they print money like they've been doing, gold is an accountability system. If they print too much money, gold is going to show the money went up, but the value of the gold, or the amount of the gold, didn't. And people will see how fraudulent the money system is. So they had to get us off the money system so that we couldn't track that. Right? If you look at the historical returns of gold, there's a 20 or 30-year period where the spot price of gold stayed the same every single year because the government manipulated it so that you just don't know what happened to those years. It's omitted data. Okay. So the solution on that is, I do recommend people own gold. I think that you should have 5 to 10% of your overall asset value in gold. And it's something that, again, like it's a store of value. I'm going to use the gold to store my value instead of my cash, which goes down in value. Little most people don't know. Little do most people know, you can actually borrow against gold. So if I get enough gold, I can take a loan against my gold and use that money that I've borrowed against my gold to go buy an asset that cash flows. Now I have gold growing and I have real estate paying me every month, right? That's what banks do. So how come I can't do it? Turns out I can. I just have to know this data. So excellent question, Brad. The next one I'm going to cover, this one's going to sting a little bit because this one stung for me when I had to confront it. The next taboo topic we're going to cover is buying crap while being broke. I'm going to call it buying crap while broke. It's like driving under the influence, buying crap while broke. Okay. What I mean by that is how many of us have that friend, or maybe we are that friend that isn't saving money, is in debt, is not doing well financially, but they're driving a freaking BMW, or they're going out every weekend or every evening, or they're going on trips all the time, or their family just got a new house. Okay. That's something that we see all too often. It's a normal thing in America. That's called buying crap while broke. That person is basically borrowing money to have stuff that they really can't afford. Okay. Now, what we have to communicate about that is most people do that because they're trying to keep up with someone else that's already doing that. Meaning like, this family buys a new house and all their peers are like, oh no, they bought a new house. What are they going to think of us? We didn't buy a new house and we're going to look like the poor family. We better go buy one too. So then they go buy a new house. Now, what they don't know is the first family that they were watching can't even afford the house they just bought. But nobody talks about that part because, again, we don't talk about bad financial decisions. So nobody says the house was a mistake. The bank approved us for way more money than we can afford. The realtor was just trying to make a commission. None of that stuff. Okay, so they buy the house too because they want to keep up with the Joneses. They end up in the same position. Okay, and now they have to justify it because what's even worse than being the odd man out on buying the new house is being the odd man out that bought the new house and then lost it. So they have to make sure that their neighbors don't think they're not doing so. Now we have to get a new car too, because then we really look like we're doing well. Then we have to go on a vacation because then we really look like we're doing well. And it's really this facade that we play. Okay, buying crap we don't need, buying stuff when we're broke. That's what we have to communicate, is that's something that almost everybody does. I know very few people who don't do that. Okay, that's like middle class, like operating like mode 100% right now. And so the thing that we have to confront on that is it's not logical. It's not logical. Those things don't help you. Looking good for your friends doesn't help you. Looking impressive for your family doesn't help you. Being able to say, I own this, doesn't help you. In the future, what will help you is if you saved money. What will help you is if I invested. What helps me is if I actually took my money and did stuff that actually made me happy instead of trying to impress those around me. Okay. So that's the first thing, is most of the time when someone buys crap while they're broke, it's motivated by that. Now, the second thing is some people are actually trying to just commit financial suicide. Meaning they've done so much irresponsible crap with money that they're just running around reckless, endangered with finances. That exists. People do that. So they will just continue doing that habitually. That's a different case. Okay, but what's got to be confronted on that is, again, that comes down to a lack of understanding about money and a lack of personal security. Meaning, I have to think about what others think of me for me to feel good about myself. Right? That's more like a behavior thing. Like my mindset about myself as a being is based on what someone else thinks about the fact that I own a piece of metal or a piece of wood that eventually is going to rust out, burn down, or die. Okay, that's a real issue. So we've got to confront that. If I'm buying crap I don't need, I'm probably trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's not good for me. It doesn't help them. They're not going to help me. It's not going to be a benefit down the road. And I'm also basing my personal feelings of security on what my friends and family think about me, which is a terrible thing to do. That's literally like throwback to grade school, like peer pressure. You got peer pressured into buying a house. You get peer pressured into buying a car, right? That doesn't help anybody. So the solution for this is I have to really take the stance. If I feel the need to impress someone, I have to actually ask myself, are they going to pay for it? If I buy this thing and I can't afford it, are they going to help me? Are they paying for it? The answer is no, they're not going to pay for it. If you had to think about that, let me correct that. They are not going to pay for your car or your house. So if they're not going to pay for it, they're not responsible for me. They don't care about my outcomes in my future. That I don't care what they think. I don't care if they don't like me that I don't have a house. I don't care if I don't fit in, that I'm not driving the same type of car they are, or we don't go on vacations or whatever. Like that's none of my business because they have no responsibility for my financial future. That's how we handle that. So that's the behavior side of it. Now, the other side of it is the simple factor of financial literacy. Do I understand the difference between assets, liabilities, and stuff? Three categories: assets, liabilities, and stuff, right? Assets, things that I own that have value that will go up in value or pay me every month. Those are assets. Liabilities, things that I owe that cost me money. Those are liabilities. Stuff, things that I own that won't go up in value and won't pay me. House is not an asset, it's stuff. Car, not an asset, it's stuff, right? Boat, not an asset, it's stuff. So if I spend my time buying stuff, then I'm going to have just a bunch of stuff that went down in value in a couple years. Versus if I'm buying assets, then yeah, my house might look more ghetto than my neighbors. I might not have the newest car. We might not go on vacations, but I have assets. I'm actually building financial certainty for my family. In my opinion, if I'm a dad, if I'm a mom, if I'm a anybody to anybody, that's a more responsible move. That is a more responsible move. I'm basing my decisions off of those who rely on me and providing certainty for them in the future financially and certainty for myself. Instead of I'm looking for approval from my pastor or my friends or my neighbors or my kids, friends, moms and dads at school. Like that's just ridiculous. So that's that topic. Let me check and see if there's any other topics here on Facebook. If you guys have topics you would like me to cover, taboo financial topics, drop them down in the comments, and I would love to cover those. Eric said, I was always taught if I can afford the monthly payment, I can afford it. That equals negative equity that I'm still working to get rid of. That's totally true. Eric Whitaker has a good taboo topic. So his is great, actually. He says, I hear from parents, I would rather spend all the money on the kids when we are alive versus after we're dead. Okay, so who's ever thought that or heard that? We'd rather spend all of the money now while our kids are alive versus after we're dead. Guys, that's a good one. That's a great one, Eric. So I'll address this. Again, we've got to communicate about that. What happens after you're dead isn't up to you, right? So don't even be focused on what happens with money after I'm dead. Who knows? Maybe the currency goes broke and it doesn't exist in the first place. But let's go ahead and hit the thing that they're talking about. If I'm a parent and I'm saying that, I'm not confronting a couple of things. I'm not confronting that alive comes in various conditions, right? So spending all of the money while I'm alive means that at some point I'm going to spend all of the money, meaning my later years in life, I'm going to be broke. Meaning I'm going to be the broke grandpa in a nursing home that my kids have to pay for out of their working income. Same thing we just talked about. That is a financial liability. And no grandparent thinks that about their grandkids or their kids, but that's exactly what's happening. They're becoming a financial liability to their kids and grandkids. You are robbing their lives from them because now they've got to take care of your ass because you didn't take care of yourself. That's basically what that comes down to, right? So again, that kind of goes back to the prior one of just start getting your finances in order today. Just get them in. It's not hard. Earn income, save, invest, pay off debt. Those are all things that would help there. All right, let's see if there's any other questions here. Jose says he has a friend that does the buying crap they can't afford thing. All right, I think that's all the comments we have. So I'm going to go back to my list here. Next question. Man, these ones are super awkward. Next thing we're going to cover. Should I get financially involved with a broke person? Okay, should I get financially involved with a broke person? This one, I grew up in church, so this one hits home because my family was the broke person. We were the ones that needed food bank. We were the ones that needed the free vehicles. We were the ones that couldn't afford our Christmas presents, so the church had to donate. So I actually remember being the broke family, the broke person, right? And what I can say about that is, again, we have to communicate about it. Okay, what does broke mean? Right? When we think about it, what does broke mean? Broke means, I have liabilities that exceed my assets, which means that I was buying things that don't help me And then B, I have expenses that exceed my income. That's the definition of broke. Okay. Those are behaviors. Those are behaviors. Those are not like poor person, this happened to them. No. That person behaves unintelligently with money. I know that's hard to hear, but I'm saying I was that person. So I can say that. I'm not saying those people, I was the guy. I was the guy that needed the help. I was the guy that couldn't pay bills. I was the guy asking for a handout. My family was that. So when I see a broke person today and I think, do I get involved with them? I instantly think, am I helping them or am I enabling them to make it easier to stay where they're at? Right? Emma says, what are we talking about? We're talking about taboo financial topics. So topics about finances that people don't usually talk about. And the purpose is to open up communication about them and start bringing about communication, education, and solutions. So basically, if somebody's broke and I'm looking at, do I help them? Do I get involved with them? Do I donate them a car? Do I help them with their groceries? Do I buy them a house? Do I pay for their rent? I immediately have to ask myself, would that help them? Meaning, would it improve their condition in life? Not would it take a problem out of their hands? Will it improve their conditions in life? Or will it make it easier for them to continue doing what they're doing? Okay. Now, part of help, I have to identify, am I doing this out of logic or am I doing this out of emotion? When I want to help somebody, am I doing it because I see a logical area that I can improve the condition for, or am I doing it out of sympathy? Sympathy means I have some sort of mental agreement with where they're at and we're vibing basically at the same level. And so I end up reaching out to try and help them, but it's really more about me. If I'm helping them because of sympathy, it's not actually help. That's a me flow. I'm doing it for me at that point. Okay. And if that's the case, then I need to look at it as that. I gave that homeless person this because it made me feel better about me. That had nothing to do with helping them at that point. Even the Bible says that the moment you do that, the help is gone. Like it doesn't count. There's no brownie points for it, right? So when I'm helping someone, think about it more as like being a parent, right? So if I have a kid that let's say they got in trouble at school, instead of me rushing in to make it all better, where's the teaching moment? Where is the teaching moment? How do I help that person so that it doesn't happen again? That's what I would be helping them with, guys, so that it doesn't happen again. Because if I help them and it keeps happening, it wasn't help, right? It actually was like a form of suppression because I made it easier for it to happen again next time because I blocked cause and effect, right? I've been homeless. It sucks. That's why I'm not homeless anymore, because it sucks. And I had to realize it sucks and I don't want to stay here and I don't want to keep doing this and I'm going to change. But if when I was homeless, somebody was like, hey man, let me buy you some food and some clothing and a bed and a tent and make it easy, then it doesn't suck anymore. And now it's easier for me to keep being homeless and I'm going to keep doing it because nothing bad happened and impinged on my environment to make me basically do the fight or flight thing, right? I'm either going to fight to stay here, or I'm going to leave. Okay. So getting involved with a broke person, that's the communication we have to have. Okay. And part of it might even be asking them like legitimately, what caused you to be here? Right. If the person doesn't have a car, right? If the person doesn't have, a house, if a person is not able to buy groceries, like I have to help them also confront it. Because if they can't confront it, they're going to keep doing it. So if I'm thinking about helping, I'm going to ask them, hey, what was it that caused you to be in this condition right now? Okay. And if they start blaming, instantly, I'm not helping because they don't think it's their responsibility. It definitely is. It's my responsibility to buy groceries for my family. It's my responsibility to make sure there's a roof over their heads. It's my responsibility to make sure they have transportation. So in that case, I'm looking at, I have to confront, are they taking responsibility or do they instantly blame? When I ask them, why are you here right now? Okay. Sorry to hit you guys with so many Bible references. You look back at the Bible, Jesus did that. He would ask people, why are you here? Why are you here? Right. And people would either fess up, be like, because I did some stupid stuff, or they would instantly be like, oh, is that guy's fault? Is that guy's fault? These people did this to me. And you would see how he acted based on that. Right. So if I'm looking at this as like I'm helping means I'm putting them in a position where it doesn't happen again. I'm putting them in a position where it doesn't happen again. Sometimes that means I let effect happen to them. If they're sleeping outside, one night it's going to be cold. It's not fun, but that's what happens when you sleep outside. Maybe they'll figure out, okay, I need to figure out how to not do this. Let me go get a job. Right. So The solution there, guys, the solution there is to be benevolent with education, giving information. If somebody's in a condition like that, it's because they have bad information. Be generous with information. Allow them to be helped through the realization of like the real data of how they can get help, right? And then also offer opportunity. I've hired homeless people, guys. It's never gone well. They always quit and do weird things while they're there. But I've hired them, okay? Because my response, and I think someone asked about giving money to a homeless person. I never do. And the reason why, I live in a city called Anchorage. Homeless synonymous with drug usage. So I know when I give them money, that's what it's going to go to. So I don't, but I will offer them work. I will say, no, 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 I'm not going to give you cash, but I will give you a job. You can come work. Okay. If you can work, you can earn money, and then you'll figure out, I'm going to either put this towards drugs or alcohol or whatever. I'm kind of, I don't think they should do those things, but I'm kind of the viewpoint that they still get to make the decision when it's their money, right? If they keep making the same decision, they're going to keep ending up in the same spot. And I'm going to eventually be like, hey, I hired you like 4 times, nothing changed. Right. So that would be how I would solve that as a taboo topic. And again, that's one like we don't communicate about. Nobody communicates. Instead, they're looking at, like in the city I'm in, how do we give them more free housing? Guys, if they wanted housing, they would have housing. They don't want housing. Otherwise, it would be a priority to them. They would have houses, right? The next one here I'm going to cover is lending to family. These are all of like the nitty gritty ones, right? So lending money to family members, always been awkward. Anytime I've lended money to family, it's not gone well. Anytime family lended money to me, it did not go well. It always leads to an awkward situation. It might just be my family, could be, or it could be just a thing, right? But here's the thing. When I'm lending money, we again have to communicate about this. If I'm lending money, I have to communicate about lending. What is lending? Okay. Lending is usually done with a bank. I go to a bank, I ask them for their money because I don't have some. There's a whole other list of behaviors behind why I don't have some. And then secondarily, they usually want to charge me interest, a monthly payment, and they want collateral, meaning that if I don't give them their money back, they're going to take something away from me, right? And so because of that, whenever I've borrowed money from a bank, there's always been a level of respect. Like, I borrowed money for my car. I don't want my car to go away. So I'm going to make sure I pay the bank because I know they will freaking take my car away. Right? So when somebody is going to a family member, it means that the bank wouldn't loan money to them. Hard to confront, but guys, like the bank, the lending institution, their sole purpose, the sole purpose of the bank is to loan money to people, right? So when a bank won't loan money to someone, there is a problem. There's a giant problem when an institution who solely exists to loan money to other people and charge interest says, nope, we won't give it to that one. Doesn't matter if it's my brother, my mom, my dad, it doesn't matter. That is a true fact. The bank would not give them money. Secondarily, if they're coming to family, it means that they can't even use credit cards at this point. Have you ever known a credit card company to say no to someone? No, they give out credit cards to 18-year-olds on college campuses with free t-shirts because they want people charging credit cards. That means that this person couldn't even get a credit card to lend them money right now. So if they're coming to me, that means I'm their last resort. I'm their last resort. They've tried the bank, they've tried all this stuff, and they said no, and they're coming to me because they think I'll say yes. Right? So that's it. It doesn't matter that we're family. At this point, they're saying that's the easy one. Okay, that's the one that'll roll over and give me the money that I haven't been able to get from anybody else. That's reality, right? So what do we have to confront about that? It means that this person is not creditworthy. Creditworthy meaning they're not worthy of being able to borrow money. They can't repay it. Otherwise, the bank would have given it to them. The credit card would have given it to them. Somebody would have given it to them, right? The other thing is that if this is the case, it means that I have to be extra careful. Imagine if it wasn't family, if it was just some random person that came up to you and borrow money, you would be skeptical. You'd be like, what do you need it for? Okay. What happens if you don't pay me? We need to get this on contract and on paper so that if that happens, I can take you to court and get my money back. But what happens with family is we don't do any of those things because we're like, that's brother, that's sister or that's cousin or that's mom or that's dad, and we let the barriers down and we do the good old handshake under the table thing, and then all of a sudden we loan money to somebody that can't repay us, we can't do anything about it because it's family, and now it's just this weird thing, right? So lending money to family, I don't think it's a good idea. If I'm going to help my family out with money, it's going to be a gift. Okay, I don't expect them to give me that money back. It's going to be a gift. I'm just going to say, here, have it. Like, that's yours. You don't need to pay me back. You're my brother. You're my sister. You're my mom. You're my dad. I love you. Go pass on the favor to somebody else now. Okay, that's my solution for that. Because honestly, like, how awkward would it be to have to foreclose on a family member and take away their house or their car, or try and garnish their paycheck, or take them to court? Like, you just don't want that. That's not drama. That's anybody's business to get into. Like, just leave that out, right? So that's what I would say on this. Let me see if there's any other questions here. Any other suggested comments? Again, if you guys have topics you would like me to cover, drop them in the comments and I will answer them. Josue says, sometimes you have to let people learn to doggy paddle versus throwing them the float. Exactly. That's a good way to put it. Marcy, when people are on government assistance. Marcy, we covered this one last week. I did hit it on the head. Basically, it's either like a legitimate poverty situation, and that's what that's for, or it's someone that's out ethics. Usually it's someone that's out ethics that's just trying to scam for a free paycheck and not have to work. But I did cover that last week. Edgar Rua's taboo topic: the rich and wealthy enjoy and love preying on the poor. That's a good one. I will cover that one, Edgar. Evo, that's a good one. So Evo, my buddy, is saying he wants me to talk about this idea that wealthy people prey on poor people, and that it's like the top 1% versus the bottom 99%, right? Now, again, we start with communication. Now, I want to communicate on this one first, that this one is communicated about. It's all over the media. Okay, it's died down a little bit, but if you looked a couple years ago, especially I think around the 2016 election when Uncle Bernie was running, right? There was all of this wealth inequality talk, and really, like, you know, basically showing that there's all these people that had money and all these people that didn't, and the guys up here were evil and the guys down here would be taken advantage of. And so it really is talked about, but you have to look at who is talking about it. It's media. Okay, if you trace back media is owned by politicians, lobbyists, and large corporations that basically run our country. So it's their trumpet piece, it's their mouthpiece. They're trying to get you to do and think what they want you to get you to do and think by sharing the same message over and over, right? And so the reality with this is that there are some suppressive wealthy people, just like there are some suppressive poor people, just like there are some suppressive middle class people. There are wealthy people that they enjoy taking advantage of others. They enjoy harming people. They enjoy sponsoring wars. They enjoy causing race wars. They enjoy putting kids on psych drugs. They enjoy all this stuff, right? Just like there's middle class people like that. If you're in middle class, you probably know someone that's an asshole too. So it's not just wealthy people. Just like there's poor people. I go down to the homeless shelter and volunteer, and I see that there are asshole homeless people that are cracked out and methed out, that are basically beating up and torturing and terrorizing their peers in the homeless shelter. That exists at every single level, right? So it's not wealthy people against poor people. It's assholes against not assholes, right? Now, the good news is that there's more non-assholes than there are assholes. So if we really wanted to do something about it, we could. Like, it's not like a bully situation. But the other degree and dimension of this is my belief, and this is more just my own viewpoint. Basically, that's awesome, Josue. Basically, you know, I look at it from the standpoint of when somebody does something they know they shouldn't have done, or they didn't do something they know they should have done, they're going to make up a reason. Okay, so when somebody commits an act that's wrong, that they know they shouldn't have done, they're going to come up with a reason why it made sense to do. When somebody doesn't do something that they know they should have done, they're going to come up with a reason why they didn't do it to make sense of it, right? So if I'm poor, I did things that made me poor. I behaved in a way that made me poor. Okay, I can either take responsibility for it and say, man, I sucked with money and I did all this stuff, and most people aren't going to do that, or I can find the reason. The reason can be the wealthy guy. That's an easy reason. I never have to talk to that guy. Everyone's kind of jealous of him already. I can blame him. That guy is the root of all of my problems, right? And so that's the mechanism at work there that I see. And here's the reality is if we redistributed all of the wealth, like we gave everybody the same money, those that suck with money are going to spend it all. And those that are good with money are going to get it all from the people that spent it all. And it will end up in the same hands of everybody that it's in today. Just give it time and it would happen. So there's no such thing as wealthy people picking on poor people. There are assholes being assholes to non-assholes. And then there are people with bad financial behavior not taking responsibility for the results of their bad financial behavior by blaming somebody else as the target, right? So that's what we've got to confront there. The solution is to realize, like, guys, anybody can be wealthy. I didn't go to college. I was a C student. I had 60 kids in my graduating class. I drove a pizza car around for like 4 years. Like that was my job, no business experience. And in 4 years, I built a multi-million-dollar company. And that's not to brag. I'm saying, guys, I'm from freaking Houston, Alaska. Like if I can do that, there's no reason in hell one of you guys can't. And it's not easy, but neither is the alternative. Neither is being poor. Being homeless was not easy. Having a house repo was not easy. Losing a vehicle was not easy, right? Standing in line at food bank was not easy. So it's gonna be work either way. And I'm saying that the idea that you have to have all this pedigree and know how to be wealthy, it's not true. It's all behavior, cause and effect. If it's there, something caused it, and I'm in control. So that means it was me, right? So I get excited about that one. Let me see if there's any comments here on Instagram. All right. Any comments on Instagram? Because they're about to expire. Instagram kicks these guys off in about an hour. I'm not seeing any comments here on topics you guys would like covered, questions you would like answered. We do have a question about cryptocurrency. Alex, so we don't have enough time to cover that this week. I'm gonna put that down though, because that's a good one to cover next week. So Alex, if you're still watching, we will cover that next Friday. I do these every single week, same time. So if you tune back in, I will cover that. It's funny how many people on Instagram are asking for free money. We were just talking about that. Aaron Sunday says, Jerry, I need some help. Do you rent and buy an investment property? Tell me when to do that or when not to. There's a lot that goes behind that, right? So I wouldn't be buying an investment property if I don't understand it, like it. There's a whole list of things I have to be able to check off to buy an investment. And there's this myth that if I buy an investment property, I'm going to be wealthy. No, like sometimes that's true. More cases than not, I just end up being a stressed out broke landlord. So the investment property is not like the holy grail. Like I really have to buy a good investment property. That's the key. So there's a lot that goes into that. All right, I think that is it for Instagram. Yeah, I think that's it for Instagram. So guys, we're going to tune out on Instagram here because they're about to expire anyways. Cool. So let me answer some questions here on Facebook and Zoom. Okay, cool. Let me see if we got anything on Zoom here for questions. We will answer questions. The last 5 minutes are here. Alex says, I love the content. I just wanted to clarify when I'm doing my debt reduction. Am I adding to the first sacred account at the same time, or am I just paying the minimums on my debt and adding what I can to the sacred account? So Alex, that's a good question. So Alex is talking about something called the sacred account debt buyout. And I'll go ahead and draw you a picture on this because I think pictures are easier to understand, right? So if I have debt, I'm going to line them up here. Smallest to largest. Okay. And so what I'm doing is I'm paying only the minimums on this. So I'm only paying minimums on my debts. Right. And On the other hand, what I'm doing on this side is I also have my sacred account. This is where I put all of my extra cash. Anything that I have extra, I'm putting in the sacred account. Now, as soon as I have enough money in this sacred account to pay off my debt, I'm going to borrow against it and I'm going to pay off my smallest debt. I'm going to wipe it out entirely, right? That debt's gone now. It's out of the picture. What I've done is I've freed up a payment, right? The money that I used to put per month towards that debt, that's freed up. Now I'm going to take that and I'm going to pay myself back. I'm going to pay my loan back on my sacred account. By the way, I'm still putting all of my extra into it. And in addition to that, now I'm paying back my loan. So I'm stacking up just twice as fast now. And as soon as I have enough in there to then borrow and pay off the next debt, I'm going to repeat that cycle. And I go down the line and do that. And what happens is at the end of this, I'm debt free, right? But my sacred account has been growing my money simultaneously the entire time I used it for my debt. And this is a game of intervals, meaning I'm reducing the amount of time that I'm insolvent. By building up my account before I pay off my debt, I'm making sure I have these periods where I have money. Because what happened to me is when I started paying off debt, things would go wrong. My car would break down, whatever emergency would come up. And because I had no money, I ended up going back into debt. And so by paying it to the sacred account first, I'm also breaking that cycle. I've always got money. So if something came up, I would be able to handle it with my sacred accounts, not go back in debt, not break my cycle of paying things down. And then I would be able to still, in my stride, go back and pay my debt off as well. So that's what I would say there. Let's see what other questions we have here on Zoom. Okay, I think that's the only questions we had on Zoom. Let me check Facebook one more time. Josue, isn't it funny how different types of social media channels have different sorts of individuals? Oh yeah, Instagram is weird. LinkedIn is kind of snooty. Facebook is a lot of normal everyday people, which I kind of like Facebook the best because that's a lot of the people that I can help. Good. I think that's all the questions we have, guys. So this has been great. Next week, we'll do probably our final segment or our second to last segment on taboo money topics. Now, if you guys are watching this right now, if you go to, I'm going to give you guys a couple of things here. If you go to membership.jerryfetta.com, that is a link to get a free trial to my online university. We have a program called Wealth Dynamics University where we help provide financial education for people on all of these topics. So if you watch tonight, you're like, man, this was awesome. I want to know more. Where can I get more content like that? Go to that link and you can, there's 3 or 4 good videos just on that link, but you can also do a free trial for 14 days for Wealth Dynamics University. If you would like to do some studying, let me give you guys a free copy of my book too. If you just go to jerryfetta.com, you can order a free copy of my book. You cover the shipping. I think it's like $7, and we'll send the book out to you and you can get content with that. And that's basically giving you a lot of the stuff in writing. So if you're kind of looking for a roadmap, that's a great way to go about it. And then the final one here that I'm going to give you, this guy is magic. If you would like to schedule a call and do an assessment for your cash flow every month, go to jerryfetta.com/DITI. I know that's a lot of links, but I did a call like that with Josue today, and we were able to free him up like $250 a month. Okay, I did a call with a client last week. I was able to free them up like $1,800 a month. So a 30-minute phone call. I don't charge for those, but the agreement is any money that I help you save, you put to your sacred account. We're not going to give it to Wall Street. We're not going to give it to the IRS. We're not going to give it to banks. We're not going to go give it to large corporations and Amazon. We're going to give it to you. So if we do one of those calls, they're totally free. I'll spend 30, 45 minutes on the phone with you and help you free up money. But the agreement is that money goes into your sacred account now. Okay. So guys, check those out. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We will tune out here for tonight, and hope you guys enjoyed it. All right. Take care.